We all love a good reset, don't we? The feeling of wiping the slate clean, the new space, the new year, new me, the promise that this time we'll finally get it right. And if we're honest, most of us don't want to change our lives. We just want to finally feel like we're back in control of them. So for a little while, the reset gives us that illusion until it doesn't. But sometimes I wonder, why do we keep resetting? Is it because it feels good to start over? Or is it because we don't trust ourselves to keep going? I think that we tend to crave a new beginning more than we crave consistency because beginnings feel hopeful and follow through feels hard. So today I want to talk about why those resets we love never seem to stick and what it actually takes to make one last. Welcome back to Morning Coffee Talk. If you're new here, I'm Jess, and this is where we slow down, get honest, and figure out how to elevate your mindset, your habits, and your peace. I share conversations like this every week. So if this sounds like your kind of space, make sure you like the video and subscribe before you go. It really helps our little community grow. So grab your coffee and let's chat. Why your resets don't work. So I used to think my resets failed because I wasn't disciplined enough. But it really wasn't discipline I was missing. It was direction. Most of my resets came out of frustration. I look around and think, I need to get my life together. So I'd clean, organize, and plan, but none of it came from peace. It came from pressure. And when something starts from pressure, it never feels sustainable because you can't build calm from chaos. And it's such a familiar cycle, right? We burn out, we reset, we overcommit, and then we burn out again. And it feels productive because we're doing something. But it's not actually change, it's just rearranging the overwhelm. And resets, they feel safe because they're a way to avoid facing how messy the middle actually is. We crave that fresh start because it gives us instant relief. But long-term peace, that comes from follow-through. The truth is, most of our resets fail because they're built around fixing ourselves instead of actually supporting us. We try to become a new person overnight instead of understanding what the current version of ourselves actually needs. It's like trying to run a marathon in someone else's shoes. They may look great, but they'll never fit right. And once I stopped treating the reset like a rebrand and started actually spending time with the parts of me that needed the attention, things finally started to stick. So what I realized is most of us don't really need a reset. What we need is a redesign. A reset wipes the slate clean, but a redesign builds with intention. The reset is the way of saying, I'm starting over, and the redesign says, I'm adjusting what's already here. And that difference changes everything. For so long, I treated the reset like a rebrand. I'd hit a wall, be frustrated, and tell myself, okay, Monday, everything is changing. We're starting over, brand new. And nothing ever stuck because I was trying to escape my old habits instead of really understanding them. And that's when the shift happens, when you stop asking, how do I fix this? And start asking, how do I design my life to support me better? When you redesign your routines around your energy, your current season, and your real life priorities, that's when things finally start to stick. Because you're no longer trying to become a new version of yourself, you're learning to take better care of the one that already exists. So when we talk about a reset, we talk about surface level things, the declutter, the routine, and the plan. But what actually keeps going has very little to do with these things. Because it's not about how perfectly you start, it's about how gently you stay. Real change doesn't start in that spark of motivation. It happens in the quiet in between, when no one's watching and you still choose to keep going. And the resets that last aren't the revolutionary ones. They're the ones that feel realistic. They fit your life, they fit your season, they fit your energy. They're built around who you are now and not who you're trying to prove yourself to be. So for me, I stopped chasing perfection and I started choosing peace. I'm going to share with you the 10 gentle reminders that I used to make the resets actually last. I used to treat rest like it was something I had to earn. Like I needed to prove to myself that I had done enough before I could take a break. What I've learned is rest isn't a reward, it's maintenance. It's part of how you keep showing up, not something that pulls you away from progress, but something that protects it. Because you can't build calm from exhaustion. When rest starts becoming part of the process instead of the prize, that's when you'll stop burning out and you'll start maintaining. I think sometimes we mistake peace for presentation. We convince ourselves that if our space feels calm, we will feel calm. And that if we could just get the right playlist, the right journal, the right lighting, everything inside of us will catch up. And don't get me wrong, those things can help. There's nothing wrong with loving a good candle or having a clean space because those are small acts of care. But what I did realize is that my environment, it started to look peaceful long before I felt it. Because peace isn't how your life looks, it's about how your energy moves through it. Once I started to focus on what actually helps me feel grounded, not with what looks good on the camera or matched an aesthetic, everything started to last longer. Because the resets that stick, they aren't the prettiest ones. They're the ones that leave you breathing easier when no one's watching. It's so easy to assume that we need to do more. And I think that's why most resets collapse, because they're heavy. We try to stack good things on top of cluttered energy, hoping the new will fix the old. But it doesn't work that way. Sometimes the most powerful resets start with what you take away. Remove the habits that drain you, the expectations that weigh you down, and the noise that keeps you from being still. The space that you clear matters just as much as the habits that you build. Because when you subtract the noise, what's left is you. The calm, capable part that's been there all along, it's just been waiting for a little room. Because sometimes peace isn't about doing more, it's about finally doing less and letting that be enough. For the longest time, I thought I just needed a new system. The right planner, the right app, the right routine, the right journal, but none of it ever stuck, and then I'd end up frustrated with myself again. And I finally realized that systems don't create consistency. What creates it is self-trust. And how you build that is with one small promise at a time. So when you say that you're going to take a walk, actually do it. Even if it's just around the block, that builds your self-trust. When you tell yourself you're going to drink water, go to bed early, or finally take that day off and you do it, that builds your self-trust. Because it's not about perfection and how you do it, it's about doing it and proving to yourself that you can. Prove that you can rely on yourself even in the small ways. Because once you start believing that, the rest of the structure becomes easy to hold. So before you spend energy designing that perfect routine, ask yourself, do I trust myself to keep one small promise today. Because once you do, the system becomes the support, not the source. So for a long time, I kept building routines around the version of myself that I wish I was. You know, the 5 a.m. girly, the person who doesn't forget their water bottle or forgets something on the calendar, the one that has endless energy and no distractions. But that person isn't real, at least not on an everyday basis. Every time I built my life around this imaginary version of myself, I'd ended up feeling like I'd failed. Not because I wasn't trying hard enough, but because the plan I built was never for myself. It wasn't built for who I actually am. And when I finally started to build habits around my real life, not my ideal one, that's when things started to shift. And I stopped fighting time and started flowing with it. So some days, they look like a full morning routine. Other days, it's just the essentials, making my coffee, and moving on with the day. But both of those count. The key is starting small enough that your habits can grow with you, but also staying self-aware enough to notice when they don't fit anymore. Because what works for your life right now may not work in 6 months or even 6 weeks. So when things start to feel off again, don't see it as starting over. Just redesign. Adjust to the flow, not the vision. I used to think that the only way to stay consistent was to follow a routine, doing the same thing at the same time every day. But life isn't that predictable. Some days you wake up calm and centered, and other days you're just doing your best to catch up, especially when you have kids. And what helped me more than any perfect plan was finding a rhythm. A few small things that I can come back to no matter what kind of day I'm having. So it's not rigid, it's responsive. And that's what makes it sustainable. Because a routine tells you what to do, while a rhythm reminds you of who you are. The hardest part of a reset isn't the beginning. It's what happens after the beginning. You know, the end of the honeymoon stage, the part where the excitement fades and everything starts to just feel a little bit heavier. And that is the dip. Most of us take the dip as a sign that something went wrong. We're not doing it right, that we've lost discipline or we've fallen off. But it's really just the part where the new starts to become the new normal, where the habits stop feeling exciting and they actually start feeling real. But the difference between the people who keep going and the people who have a new reset every few weeks, it isn't motivation, it's preparation. They are expecting the dip and they are planning for it. What they're doing is building soft versions of their habits for those low energy days. The lighter, easier versions that keep the rhythm alive without the burnout. So maybe that means that you're skipping the gym, but you're still stretching. Maybe instead of journaling those full 2 pages, you're just doing a paragraph. And maybe instead of cleaning your entire house, you're doing one surface or taking it one room at a time. The point is, something's still happening. They're still showing up. And that's how you make progress more sustainable. Not by avoiding the dips, but learning how to move through them. So I don't know about you, but I used to measure my progress about how much I got done. But over time, I started noticing that the days that I felt most productive, I didn't always feel as fulfilling. And the quieter days, the ones where I didn't get as much done, were the ones that actually brought me peace. So think of it as quality over quantity. And now I start to ask myself different questions. Not what did I accomplish, but how did I feel today? How do I feel when I move through my day like this? Because if your progress is costing you your peace, then it's not really progress. It's just performance. I think once you start to measure growth in the calm instead of the chaos, you'll notice that rest and stillness have their own kind of momentum. You'll realize that the goal isn't to do more, it's to feel better while you're doing it. And that is the kind of progress that does last. The kind that doesn't need validation or numbers or the perfectly checked off list. It just needs to feel steady. Consistency isn't about doing the same thing at the same time every day. It's about staying connected to your intention, not glued to your plan. It's about showing up in different ways through different seasons and not forcing yourself to move the same way all the time. Some days, consistency looks like full focus and big effort. Other days, it's just being kind to yourself for showing up at all. Both count, both matter. I used to think people who had the best routines were the most disciplined, but I learned that they're usually the most flexible. They don't fall apart when the plans change. They just find a new rhythm and keep moving. And that's what keeps things going. It's not about perfection or keeping the same thing at the same time every day. It's about adaptability. It's learning how to adjust without quitting. And that's what real consistency looks like. Not control, but trust. The quiet knowing that you can flow with your life, not fight against it. So recently I learned that how you start and end your day matter just as much as everything in between. Maybe even a little bit more, because the middle, that can get unpredictable. But the beginning and the end, those are the parts that you can claim. I call them the emotional bookends. The small moments when you tell your body, this is where we begin, and then this is where we end. For me, mornings usually mean coffee, obviously, and quiet. 10 minutes without my phone and easing into the day. And evenings are just a little slower. Doing some skincare, reading a few pages in my book, maybe journaling. Nothing elaborate, just things that remind me that I'm allowed to pause. Because when your days start and end with grounding, the middle doesn't knock you off as easily. The emotional bookends aren't about routines, they're the anchor, the small, steady reminders that your time belongs to you even when your day doesn't go as planned. What I've realized through all of this is that it isn't about being a new person. It's about building the days that make you feel like you again. It's when you stop performing and when you start living your life. We spend so much time trying to start over that we forget that we are actually still in motion. The real change is happening quietly in every small thing that you've done for yourself, the early mornings, the quiet nights, and even in the moments where you took a breath before you reacted. That is all part of it, and it all counts. So wherever you are right now, if things are feeling messy or if they're finally starting to feel peaceful, just know that you are allowed to keep going without fixing anything first. You can build something good from where you are right now. Thank you for spending your time with me today. If this conversation grounded you, share it with someone who might need it too. And don't forget to like and subscribe before you go. And I'll see you next Sunday, same time, same coffee.